Hey everybody, how are you doing today? What's going on? Hey everybody, welcome to day, what is it, 12 of the great global financial collapse of 2020? Or if you think about it, Edward, this could be day, what is it, 365 times, well, day 3,650 some odd, if you consider that this is really the continuation of the financial crisis that got started in 2008.
Yeah, I mean, look, you throw enough money at it, it kicks the can down the road. Last time for 10, 11 years. Guerra, hit the road, Guerra.
Get out of here. Yeah, a couple of things. So this is the worst or the biggest rise in a day since October.
You mentioned 2008. But the market didn't peak till March of 2009. Now, so you draw these comparisons. I guess what I'm trying to say is you're going to have these wicked short cover rallies. And that's what I think this is a short cover rally. Oil prices are up like 30 cents a barrel, no big deal. And interest rates up a little bit, which we need rates to start moving higher, I think, for this thing to resolve itself. That's what I'm going to say for now. Back to you, James.
Well, I don't know what to say, Ed. The stock market going up by 10% today, certainly a reflection of the $2 trillion rescue package before the House, the unlimited buy everything Fed bailout program, which is only going to bail out the banks, will not have any bearing whatsoever on the average individual. In fact, this is how banks and the financial elite continue to erode our freedoms and our private property, is through these sequential forced crises, contractions and expansions in capital markets. At least that's where I'm coming from. So it's good to see that the volatility that is essentially just a response to the incredible volumes of liquidity represented by now trillions of dollars of stimulus is having on the market. But again, as a normal everyday citizen, it's really neither here nor there. It's fun to watch. I like to see the big cats squirm on Bay Street, but they don't really, or on Wall Street rather, but they don't really care.
Yeah, let me just add this, James. Like when you have a market that's been in, like we saw, I think about a 30% loss in 22 days. When you have these wicked rallies, that just allows the sellers, that just, look, it doesn't end the way it ends after that kind of rout. We've had a major rout. So we get a day like today, it breaks the pattern, when I say breaks the pattern, the pattern of the last 4 or 5 weeks. But if this thing can't, like if you look at some of the FANG stocks like Facebook or Microsoft and look at a 3-month chart, look at the last couple of weeks, and you'll see a trading range. And it just looks like the peaks are just a little bit lower, and we're getting ready for another waterfall drop. That's my personal view. I'm not wishing this on anybody, but I just cannot believe that the worst is over. Now, it may be over, but it's got to be an L-shaped bottom at best, because a lot of people are going to get laid off in the weeks to come, months to come.
Yeah, well, I'm laid off now too. I just laid myself off. That's how crazy it is. I had to lay myself off. But so I guess looking at the markets, what's gold up to today?
Well, the other day we talked about how the market was down 35%. This was Friday, and gold was down 13%. Well, today the markets are still down 30%, but gold's down 3%. Gold is only down 3%. Another 3-4% move, and it's at a fresh 7-year high. Gold is telling us something here, that this printing of money, especially, has resonated with a lot of people buying gold that wouldn't buy it. Gold is a solution right now. I think it's telling us that it's up 75, 85 bucks.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
if you're producing gold, you can't produce enough.
it's a good point. Is that a beer you had in your hand there, Edward?
Peroni. Is that a beer, Peroni? Let me think.
That's an Italian beer.
Italian beer. Jesus.
Italian beer.
It's an international economy.
How's your coronavirus? Have you had any coronavirus over there yet?
I guess there was a pretty big dental convention in Vancouver earlier in March, and a lot of people that attended that conference are ill, and apparently one person's passed away already. That was the beginning of March. I look at and did I say Italy spiked again? Italy had 2 down days of deaths. Now back to back to an increase, a big increase, 743 in the last 24 hours.
Wow. Yeah, Canada is up well over 2,000 now, 2,500, I guess. And it's interesting, though, that Germany, who's piling on some of the biggest cases, has nonetheless one of the lower death rates relative to the number of new cases.
Yeah, you wonder what there's got to be some mitigating factors in
Germany, it's the schnitzel.
And apparently in Italy, it's the shits.
No, in Italy, it's the pasta.
Yeah, isn't Venice a city where the sewage just goes right into the rivers?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what? Look, it's complicated. It's very complicated.
It sure is. I think I've got coronavirus.
You do, eh?
Yeah, I'm self-isolating.
Yeah, well, I don't have. I talk to my doctor buddy all the time, and he's brilliant. He says, the problem. A lot of the problem is a lot of people could have it and be asymptomatic. So you don't have any symptoms, and yet you're talking to people, and you pass it on to someone who's got a weakened immune system, and they're going to get it and die. And you pass it on to them, thinking, "Oh well, let's just carry on."
What else can you do? Yeah, well, it's.
I'm a little astounded that oil hasn't moved much today. Nothing at all. 30 cents a barrel. Here it is, 23.75, up 1.6%. Nothing.
Unbelievable. It was interesting to me that the Fed has really pulled the trigger on all of these financial sector bailout packages. And yet when it comes to the $2 trillion package for the citizens, they just can't get that one to happen.
Yeah, that rubs them the wrong way.
Yeah. I think that they should make the Fed in charge of the loans to the people, and make the senators and the congressmen in charge of the loans to the banks.
They should say no senators or bankers can get a bailout package.
That's right. Especially if they bought or sold any stock in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just an incredible list of things going on from the Fed. It's just like, so did you see that piece I sent you that even the Canadian Bank of Canada has made changes so that they are now allowed to actually buy stocks directly? Wow. Yeah.
You think they want to buy some Crown Mining?
I don't think that's one of the stocks they'll be buying, Ed, because there's only a few people involved with that stock now, and none of them are pals with Bill Marneau or Justin Trudeau.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
the market's up about close to 10%. I kind of think that tomorrow will be a very, very, it surprised me if the markets were up. I think tomorrow will be a red day, a big red day.
well, that would be consistent. I mean, having a big green day today is completely, obviously with all these new special purpose vehicles that the Fed has created to buy stock out of the market and buy securities and corporate debt. The market is going to start to reflect the non-reality once again. And
Well,
I'm just waiting for the United States. I'm waiting for the Americans to actually rise up. And I think that that's what's going to happen. All those backwoods guys with guns are going to make a move on Washington.
if you start to see some violence, that's what could get really interesting. Like if you could, see some mobs, riots.
Well, especially when you look at the degree to which, an American has to ask himself, to what degree does a bailout for a bank constitute an infringement on my rights to life, liberty, and happiness? Because at the end of the day, the more that the banks get, the less that the people get, and it's not an equitable situation. It's not, the wealth is not distributed democratically or through merit. It's simply distributed through nepotism.
Yeah.
And for me, we don't have quite that situation as gravely in Canada. We still have it to a degree, but you can still, sort of sidestep that whole morass and have a decent life here. In the United States, if you don't know anybody, if you're not part of that elite, then you're just out there. You're just out in the wind by yourself. You're driving a dump truck. You're driving a chainsaw.
What I find interesting about the U.S. is that you have some bad luck, health wise. It can bankrupt you.
Right. Well, that's the idea. I really laugh when Americans say that they have the greatest country on earth. It's like, really? That may be true if you like a broom handle rammed repeatedly up your ass with no lubricant continuously.
The word sliver comes to mind. Not slither, but sliver.
Sliver, yes. Yes, it's a very bad situation.
It's a Bill Gates wrote something, and I passed it on to you. He talked about what this, and it's because he's the richest man in the world, or one of them. He's saying some very, very some things that I think make a lot of sense. Like, hey, this is really telling us that we're all the same. We're all people. Anybody can get coronavirus. And anybody can die from it. Like we're just people. We're just,
not anybody can seek the top medical attention, the top level of medical attention. That's where all men are not created equal in the United States. Right. Is, if you don't have the bankroll, you can't access, you can't participate in the human trials of remdesivir. You can't access any of the in short supply medical applications to coronavirus, or COVID-19 as the disease is called. It's just not accessible to you. So, that's the continuous sort of perception being driven down the throats of Americans, is that we are all created equal. Yet that fundamental first sort of segment of the Constitution is the most overly wrong, completely false. All men are not created equal. In fact, all men are specifically born into the circumstances that determine what level of equal they can ascribe to or aspire to.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think this coronavirus crisis is going to change the political landscape in the United States, and we'll certainly see that in the next election.
Yeah, one of the points he makes, and I think he makes about 15 points, is that he says, we've been oppressed now by this virus for, a few weeks or a month or two. What about all the people on our planet that are oppressed all the time? All the time. There's no getting out of it. Like, and there are probably 500 million to 1 billion of our species that live in, like a state that you can't even comprehend.
Yeah, it's one would suggest it's criminal. Boy, I'm getting jealous watching you drink that beer.
Yeah, well, wait till you see the next one. And we were concerned because we thought the LCBO was going to be closed tonight at midnight, but they assured us that they're an essential service.
Yeah, I don't see the government shutting down the liquor supply. That's one of the things that makes that's one of the key tools to the government getting away with all of their bullshit is they keep the people drunk and high.
Keep them drunk.
Keep them drunk, keep them high. Neither cannabis stores nor liquor stores will be closed anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I see that the S&P is up 8%. The Dow's up about 9.7. Yeah, I don't, I went through that whole the YK 2000 thing, and I shorted for 2 or 3 years. I think this is just an opportunity, maybe tomorrow, but look, here's a good one. Goldman Sachs came out with their estimate for Q2 GDP, and they're calling for down 24%.
That's not bad.
24%. None of us has ever seen a down 24% quarter. None of us.
So what should we do?
Well, I think we continue to broadcast and tell what we think is the truth. I'll tell you, this is not your garden variety correction. I mean, the economic thing was a money thing. You can fix money with money, but when you got this kind of thing, how do you, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, some of our audience is having a discussion about
come back to normal, but it'll never come back to normal.
Right. Some of our audience is having a discussion about the use of cannabis while suffering the effects of coronavirus. And I've been reading a lot about that, and there's a lot of doctors who say THC is absolutely the worst thing you can do to yourself if you're actually suffering from COVID-19. However, CBD is a different story because it has an ameliorating effect on the autoimmune system, which I think is interesting.
Well, that's why I want to make sure I got equal doses of both.
Yeah.
So
well,
if the doses were the same, 50-50, would one offset the other?
No.
I was afraid you'd say that.
THC and CBD done at the same sort of concentrations as each other just makes you good and high and happy. Good dose of CBD tends to remove the effects of where you get into that sort of self-conscious spiral where you can't really hear what's being said around you because you're just thinking about how uncomfortable you're feeling. I don't know. That's not an effect that everybody who gets high on THC experiences, but probably half of the people do.
Yeah.
So the one thing about CBD is it makes for a much more pleasant experience on THC if you've got them in equal measure.
Okay. Well, yeah. Yeah, these are times that. Oh, and by the way, another comment I'll make. One of the traders on CNBC, he said, stay away from people that say this is exactly what's going to happen because nobody knows what's going to happen. And I think there's some truth to that.
Huh.
We don't know.
Isn't that what all the talking heads on CNBC do? Is tell you what's about to happen and what's happening?
Yeah, some of them do. I think that the Dow is going to have trouble at 20,450 to 20,500. If we get through that, then we may have another day or two of run. But when you have these big moves in a predominantly dominant down market, they usually are just trading opportunities. That's what I would say. I cannot believe this is the bottom. Not even close. I think we got to test the bottom.
Yeah, well, I hope to see it go to Dow 6,000. That's my big hope.
Yeah.
Then we'll be touching the bottom. But I mean, the whole idea of perpetual inflation, which it's interesting. The Fed seeks a inflation rate of 2%. Well, inflation rate of 2% and a compounded basis implies the accelerating consumption of everything over time. So I think an entity like the Fed, if it was truly pursuing or trying to protect the interests of the people, would be seeking at best 0% inflation. And given the 7.1 billion people on Earth, maybe even negative inflation.
Yeah. Well, look, I for one am astounded about how gold has moved. Like it went from 1,700 to 1,560 or 1,460, now back to 1,660. Like it's wild. We're in wild times. We're in wild times.
Yeah. Yeah. But as long as you got a supply of beer and drugs, right?
Well, and some food.
Oh, yeah, and some food.
Apparently, Boeing, the CEO from Boeing was on TV and he said, we are at the point, how did he say it? We are at the point of the spear. We are at in other words, the spear, the point of the spear is pointed at everybody's got a few months here, but man, a lot of these companies can't stand going on for 2-3, beyond 2-3 months here. It's going to get really crazy when you got, air traffic down 80%. It's unconscionable.
Unconscionable. I like that word. So much going on is unconscionable, though, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of people are shaking in their boots.
Yeah. The panic is still on. I was looking on Amazon.com, the grocery store of Amazon here, and they're temporarily out of stock on many items. Most pastas, most staples they're out of, which is, I mean, the one thing that's obvious here is that if you have a garage full of food when you get the coronavirus, and let's say the worst case coronavirus, and you die, well, what good did all that food do for you or your family? It's like, great, now we have all this food sitting in the garage, and there's really the shortages that are happening now are a direct result of everybody the segment of the population that practices extreme hoarding out of fear. It's like it makes you embarrassed to be human. Honestly, makes me embarrassed to be human. But
I've said this ad infinitum. Like they've printed so much money that it's hard to not think about money, and that's really what drives me crazy is thinking about money. What do they say? If your problems are only money related and you throw money at them, they're not really problems. If you have problems and you can't throw them, you throw all the money in the world at them and they don't go away, those are real problems. And here's my dog, Guerra, or my friend. Anyway, so what are we going to do, James? What are we going to do?
Well, I'm expecting to sit and watch and observe from self-imposed isolation here, sheltering in place, as they call it in the U.S. Certainly, I don't feel any impetus to buy anything in the stock market. I don't even feel the necessity to buy gold at this point. And as long as the supermarket is still open and able to provide food, I'm just basically enjoying this time to get a lot of writing done, catch up on a lot of writing, and put out a whole bunch of financial newsletters that will make people filthy rich at WealthPress.
Well, so yeah. Well, you know that, you know what, I think that the fact they've printed so much money is the real big problem. That's the real problem. Money that just got printed, and then it seeps into the system, and all these uh, inequities appear where money gets thrown over here, like the market's up. It's just too crazy. Like, how can gold, I'm a believer in gold, and yet how did it drop so much? And here it is 2 days later, and it's come back almost all the way.
Yeah, amazing. Gotta love that gold.
Yeah, the Dow's now 20,450. It'll be interesting to see what kind of day we have tomorrow, because this has been one of the biggest days ever. I think it's the second biggest day for Dow up points ever. Second biggest.
Amazing. Gold had quite the rebound, actually. Let's see. I mean, look at this. Let's see. This chart here is pretty interesting to me. I'm going to go full screen here. Look at this. Wow.
I know.
1 day range, 14. Let's put a bigger font size on this so I can actually see.
It was up over $100 today.
Is that right? Oh, we have to go up here. Appearance. Better go with a higher font size there because I'm blind as bat. Oh, okay, there we go. So yeah, let's see. Yesterday, the range was oh, what the hell? This is on the weekly look. That's no good. Let's go to the hourly. Okay, so yeah, it's 1666.
Yeah.
So it's trading near all-time highs.
Or 7-year highs, because we were higher back in 2011.
But that was only 1920 intraday. That's only, 200 and 300 points away.
I'll do a simple math thing for you, or I'll do a simple, and again, look, if they've doubled the amount of money, theoretically, they should have doubled the price of gold, because you can't print gold. Like, you can print it whatever you want but you can't print gold. Ask the alchemists.
You can't print gold.
So gold looks like, I think it's if you wouldn't mind having some gold shekels right now. Right.
Here, I'm going to pull up. Let's see how this works. Here's the gold action of the last, since 6 o'clock this morning. You can see that it was down here at 14.99.30. And in the course of one day, it has gone up more than $165.
I know.
In a single day. So, I mean, here's the thing, is that all of that money that's been printed is now having this influence on gold, where gold is saying, well, the volume of gold has not just doubled in the planet, but the volume of dollars has just doubled. Therefore, the price of gold technically has just doubled. And even though the market is incapable of reflecting that double, it sure is trying, despite all the efforts of the U.S. corrupt dollar forces that are illegally and surreptitiously influencing the market through futures, are trying to suffocate it to the downside. But oh man, what a move. I wish I was thinking I would have bought gold this morning, and bam.
Yeah, I like looking backwards because it's so much easier to figure out what to do.
Yeah, but what a trade.
No, but gold's doing what it should do. It should hold value. Even 2 days ago when gold was down 12%. Now something just happened here.
I'm sharing my screen.
Oh yeah. No, there you go. There you go. Yeah, look at that. No, I can see gold. I think I can see gold based on my experience. I can see gold 3,000 to 3,500 sometime in the next 6, 12, 18 months. I know that's a long time frame, but gold's doing its job. If you can't see that, You can't see anything.
Yeah. Well, that's true. So basically, this will be the interesting thing is that the catalyst for gold to go through 2000 is a doubling of the US dollar supply, which is just in the process of happening right now. So I think that makes gold a buy at any price below 2000 personally.
Well, there was a guy on, okay, Guerra, move over. Here. No, you're not going on the show. Guerra, sit down. We got a little canine here.
Cool.
And the gold thing, like somebody called me up the other day. We were talking on the weekend. He said, well, if you had $10 million, what would you do with it? I said, a big chunk of it I'd put into gold. Now, being financially inept like I am, I don't have any money, so I can't put it into gold, but I would put money into gold. Now, where did you go, James? Hello. Okay. Moving right along. Silver's up 8.48% today. Look at this Dow, 2476. Yeah, it's running here up 10%. The Dow's up 10%, ladies and gentlemen. These things don't happen very often. Guerra, leave. Come on, Guerra, leave. Sit down. Any word from? Am I on right now? Well, that's good to know. So here we are. The Dow's now up 1,912 points. That's up almost 2,000 points. This thing is flying around here like crazy. The Nasdaq's up 500 points, up 7.47%. Dow's up 10.3%. It's almost like people are scrambling to buy like they've never bought before. Maybe the bottom's in. You know what? It's hard to know. Any word from James? Jesus, I hope he didn't put his finger in an electric socket or something and get electrocuted. Well, I guess we can talk about interest rates. Interest rates are, you would have thought maybe rates would have risen a bit today, and they haven't. And that's something that sort of bugs me with interest rates this low. How can things get better? Because everybody that seems to have an understanding of what's going on says, rates close to zero is the end of the banking system. So if rates stay down, how's that good? So that's something to consider. The other thing to consider is the price of oil. Price of oil is so close to record. I remember being in university, 50 years ago, 50, Jesus, 50. Holy smokes. How oil can't stay down, and you can't tell me that the world's okay. So there's that aspect of it. Gold? No, I get gold. Gold's doing its job. You can buy yourself a bespoke suit for $1660, which is an ounce of gold. An ounce of gold should always buy you a beautiful suit. There you go. Well, here we are. It's 3:42. I'm running out of things to say, to be perfectly frank. And I'm not Frank. I'm Ed. The yield on the 10-year rate is, 0.83 or 0.84. The Dow's now up 100 points. I thought we'd have resistance around 2450. Now we're already at 2550. Look at this. The Dow's up almost 2,000 points. Wow, it's crazy. Look at that. That Peroni beer tastes good. Well, I got my control guy here. Donald, what do you think? Shall we? I know. You know what? I think what we'll do here is it's 343. The market's rising like a phoenix out of the ashes. I think we should just call it a day. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, tune in tomorrow. We're going to continue this. I'll be surprised if the market moves up much higher, but it's moved down so much, anything can happen. Yeah, look at this. Up 1945.